What's going on, everybody? I'm relationship expert Terry Duran, and tonight I'm going to be speaking with relationship coach and therapist Silvy Khoucasian. Um, Thank you to everybody that's tuning in on Instagram Live or watching on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure you give us a thumbs up and share the content. This will be some very insightful information. Thanks. What's going on, Sylvie? How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm so excited to be doing this with you and to be able to share some relationship tools with the audience. So I'm really, really excited.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. It's pretty cool to be able to set up stuff like this where people can get insight without having to spend money or leave their homes or whatnot. So it's amazing what you can do when you utilize technology in the right way. So I'm glad we got your expertise. I done got you to give up an hour of your time. I know this is what you do for a living. So what do you think my listeners and the viewers need to hear to get started? I'll let you lead the conversation.
Sure. I've been following your page and, paying attention to a lot of the content that you post for a while, Terry. And, there's two different areas that I really wanted to um, bring some science and bring some research and really help people understand. So one of those would be, the three most important things about men that women need to know about. So that is one piece that, on a biological level, on a brain level, some really primal things that men need in relationships in order for them to thrive, in order for them to feel really confident and good about themselves. But also, the other side of that is, for women, I notice a lot of what you post is about women really shooting themselves in the foot when they make assumptions or they have these unrealistic expectations, especially in the early stages of dating. So I have some really practical tools that can help women understand what's both happening for them inside of that, but also how to interrupt some of those unhealthy behaviors. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds real good. You know, Obviously I see a lot of that type of behavior, and um, my delivery is often criticized and my content is taken out of context, but the point's the same. When we did our prior conversation, we shared a lot of the same thoughts on how to establish and maintain a healthy relationship, but you have a much more pleasant way of delivering the information. So if I can buffer it through you and they can get it,
Oh,
that'll work. I mean, I think a lot of women are really bitter, and bitter's a code word. I mean, a hot topic word, right? It's an offensive word to a lot of women, but all it means is that you're hurt from something in your past. So if you have negative perceptions of men, that's based off something of your past. You know what I'm saying? Like either somebody taught it to you or some experience you had shifted your perception of men that way. But when you try to break that down, at least when I try to explain that, it's met with hostility and denial and just like insecurity or cheating or any other of the hot topics that cause my comments to go crazy.
hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the hardest things I think for us as human beings, both men and women, to really be able to look at our own behavior and to be able to call ourselves out and to be able to say, wow, I reacted and I projected so much of my own stuff on that person, and to be able to even see that in a clear way is one of the hardest things for anybody to do, myself included, and I've been doing this work for, I mean, over 7 years. So I really empathize with both sides, both the men that, are a lot of times that are being, they're getting a lot of those unrealistic expectations pointed at them, and also for the women that they don't know how to express what's really happening for them on an emotional level in a way that doesn't push the man away. It's really painful to try to, so hard to get the connection that we want. One of the things is I wanted to share a story. Just kind of starting off so people really understand how much I relate to this experience. Doing this work for so many years. I'll never forget, you know, in the beginning stage of my own relationship, when a man has to pay for a woman, that's one of the most common things that I see women get so uncomfortable with. And I remember we were both standing in a coffee shop, and he was going to pay for me, you know, but there was a little bit of hesitation on his part. And I remember in my body what happened in that moment, feeling so triggered and getting so angry. I think I unleashed the beast.
You got angry at him for wanting to pay for your stuff?
I got angry at him. Because, you know what I mean? Because
I'm trying to understand. So you were mad at him for wanting to pay for your stuff?
No, because when there was a hesitation, like I wasn't sure if he was going to pay, and when my own anxiety started to kick in, because we've been fed these really unrealistic expectations.
Oh, man. Hold on, I'll get her back, y'all. I'll get her back. Give me a second.
Hello, you have reached the voicemail of Silvy Khoucasian.
Alright, I'll get her back on, man. She really knows what she's talking about.
Oh no, we've been cut off.
Hey, my followers are saying that they want you to try to do a split screen. You want to join my live session and I'll just add you so they can see you talk? We can do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Alright. So just go join the session and make a comment so I can see you.
You got it.
Alright. Alright, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and see if we can get her added to the live session. Alright. Let's see. Let me make sure I'm at the. Alright, I see her now. Let me add her. All right. We got you in the building.
Yay! Right in the middle of my juicy story, the phone died, Terry.
Well, technology give out on us sometimes, so it's all good. So let's. You was at the part where you got mad at the dude at the coffee shop.
So the reason I share that story is because my partner did absolutely nothing wrong. But because we've been prescribed so many unhealthy and unrealistic expectations in whether it's our social media or whatever the case may be, it triggered something inside of me, and I was not able to express my discomfort in a way that was loving, that was kind. And so I share that because me being able to reflect and see my own behavior and to be able to call myself out on that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But it was...
Yeah, a lot of women are reluctant to do that.
It's because it's really hard, and not only it's hard to see yourself. You know, we kind of live in a bubble. We don't know unless somebody reflects back on us how we're showing up, and you know, being able to put words to that, like, wow, you know, I felt really uncomfortable in that moment, and then to be able to take some time and reflect, why did that bother me so much? What was coming up for me to have such a big reaction, and then to go back and apologize and bring humility into the relationship.
That's smart. You know, I mean, it's basic stuff. You know, a lot of the advice that I give on my page, you know, I get called out, or are you an expert? Do you have a degree? And I'm like, no, I don't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you necessarily have to have an official training to understand how human beings cooperate. But on the side note, I do have a bachelor's and master's degree in communication, which is very closely related to psychology, etc. So
Absolutely.
My understanding of how men and women operate is very substantial, especially when you add in my personal life experiences. You know, being a hoe for a long time, which from a male perspective requires a lot of skill. Like you gotta have in order to be very successful with women without having to lie or deceive them, to actually just have them want to be with you for who you are and your credentials. That takes planning, effort, and a lot of skill from a male's perspective. And then when you couple that with a couple of weeks, it'll make 14 years I've been married. So having both sides of that fence and the communication background allows me to break down these topics and explain it in a way where men will feel like it's an authentic representation of how a large percentage of men feel, and to be able to explain and show that, man, most men are not just operating in a I'm trying to hurt women's feelings or I'm trying to get over on you type of mode. And so women that are of the belief that that's all men do, something happened to warp your perception of men, or you never had an authentic one.
Yeah, or they never felt safe with a man is this usually the language that I felt. They never felt safe to either show their emotional feelings, or they never had a present person that, women have been very much dismissed for the wild range of feelings that we have. And so when we don't feel that safe place to express it, it comes out backwards, like how you say it often. It comes out with criticizing. It comes out with, being really guarded, or, having a power switch reversal where, like, we have to be more powerful than you now, so I don't feel like you need to take advantage of me. And of course, none of those things ends up getting the connection that we want. So it's such a double-edged sword.
It's interesting to hear you articulating this, because it's reminding me of so many women that I cut off, where it's like, man, I thought she was cool. Like so many women that they start off like with the dating phase, with me. You start out with all A's. You A's in all categories until you start detracting from it. And to see how quickly some women will plummet once they realize that you are a good dude. That they realize that you're really doing something with your life. When they realize your life is really popping. Like, the behavior switches are so drastic and fast, where it's like, man, damn, I thought she was somebody that I could really hang out with, but now she's trying to pressure me into a relationship, or she's trying to blow my phone up, or she's trying to passive aggressively force me into committing to her. Like, all those type of things, however inaccurately they're expressed, for a man, the type of men that women really want, that has options, that is a very quick reason to get yourself cut off. And that's a real bad dating strategy, because if you getting the men you want cutting you off, you losing. Like, it's already an uphill battle.
I know, and it's like you have to kind of go through the process of dating and seeing, okay, there's patterns showing up here. I'm noticing that men are walking out, or I'm noticing that, as I'm trying to share what's coming up for me, I'm not really getting heard. So how can I start, pointing the finger at myself and really reflecting on what am I doing that's creating distance here? And that, again, what I'm saying is so, I kind of lost you. It's so hard to do. Can you see me, Terry?
Yeah, you good.
I can't see myself anymore, but that's okay. It's one of the hardest things to do, but it's like, we have to be able to start looking at what patterns keep repeating itself. And so one of the things I really wanted to talk about today and kind of help, some of the female watchers, because I know that's the majority of your audience, is understanding that there's 3 things that men need in their life. And this is based on Allison Armstrong's, who's done tremendous amount of work with understanding men. And I would love to know what it brings up in you, Terry, and if it resonates for you, because you've had such a range of experience. But those 3 things are status. He needs to feel status in his life. He needs to feel like he's, in his purpose, in his mission, and, has a clear direction of where he wants to go. Even if he's not there yet, but he's going towards
Grinding,
that place.
has to be able to grind. Yeah.
Move there, And then he also needs to feel appreciation, and he needs to feel appreciation, of course, from his lovely woman, whoever he chooses to partner up with. But he also needs to have adventure in his life. And so those three areas have to be present in a man. And so if, we look at that just in the dating perspective, if a man, not only is he not feeling appreciated when we're criticizing him, he's feeling the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. What I've learned about, like, from the male perspective of dating and the process, like, we use the word dating loosely. From a lot of guys' perspective, it's just a casual sex thing. You looking for new women, that you can chill with and hopefully have sex with. That if things worked out great and she did not do any other stuff that causes you to cut other women off, if she can prove that she doesn't have those traits, then it could become something long term. And so that type of perspective, though, the feelings that you get from knowing that a woman wants to have sex with you, knowing that a woman gets aroused being around you, like those type of ego feeding things where it don't really impact anybody else. It's personal things, that text messages or pictures, things that can trigger emotions in a man that, yeah, I guess you could say it's messed up or immature, but men are sexual creatures. And so if you're doing things that excite, and also, not only does it get him aroused sexually, if you can trigger a man's mental stimulation to where you're the woman he's thinking about when he gets erect, you are substantially better off than the other women in his life. You know what I mean?
Status, absolutely.
Yeah.
When
he's the number one on your list. He's number one on your list. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All that type of stuff matters, and it's hard to explain because it's frowned upon, But a lot of guys don't speak as candidly as I do either. But yeah, it's stuff like that, like being a side dude, knowing a woman is going out of her way to come have sex with you, makes a man feel awesome. Awesome. I'm sorry I can't make it. I was so horny all day though. I miss you. Just something like that can have a dude swag on 1,000 for a couple of days. You know what I mean? And the only people that really can know about it and experience it with them are his partners. That's why men share their stories and talk about their conquests like that, because some men can live vicariously through you if they don't actually get to live like that. And so it's like you said, it's nobody pays attention to the emotional aspect of what men do.
Yeah. Well, and men go through, a different journey of sexuality that is very different than women is. And I think, it's hard for women to understand how much more layers there are and how much more of a temptation they do experience on a day-to-day basis. And I think, that's, whether or not a man even has a healthy relationship with his sexuality and can, be with that and also be able to bring that in a relationship. Because a lot of times I work with men who, they can be attracted to women outside of the relationship, but when it comes to the closeness that an intimate relationship brings, it brings up a lot of issues. You know what I mean? Like, I can fantasize about women all day long out there, but for some reason, when I'm with the woman that I love the most, I can't think of her in that naughty way, or I can't just go there. And so
that's a struggle.
Layers, like I don't want to look at my woman in that way, so it's a really important conversation.
Yeah, that's frowned upon too. You know what I mean? Like, because those type of men that struggle with the reality, good women do everything bad women do in the bedroom. You know what I mean? But it's some type of mental block or some type of issue that is causing them to struggle with accepting things for reality. A woman's perception to the public is going to be different than it is to the person she's romantically involved with. That's common sense to a lot of people. You know what I mean? But
so much of it is cultural, like every culture experiences sexuality very, very differently. I mean, I'm from the Middle East. The repression in our culture is very different than it would be, if I was working with a different culture. So culture, you would be surprised, Terry, how much plays a role, even in assumptions in that conversation that we're talking about, of what our parents expected the kids to do, or how old you need to be married by. All that pressure you start to feel, and you take it out in these unhealthy ways in the relationship, you know? So one of the tools that I would suggest if you are a woman watching this, you know, and again, I'd love to know what you think, Terry, is if you're dating a man, pay attention to where he feels status in his life, where he feels status, where he gets his appreciation, and also where he gets his sense of adventure. You know, pay attention to those things when you're dating someone new, because you could see pretty soon, is this man, you know, aligned with those things in himself? Does he make space for adventure in healthy ways? Because what happens is, you know, the opposite shadow side of this is, you know, when a man is kind of, you know, minimizing the importance of those things, then it starts to become out in addictive ways where like porn becomes crazy, or video games, and we know how much that exists in our culture, you know? So where does he, you know, fill up those parts? And we have a lot of influence over our men to really support them, to, you know, encourage
a lot of
them
women
to go
don't
on
though.
adventures.
A lot of women don't like. See, a lot of women think when you say the word rejecting, they're just talking about sexual, but it's all type of rejection. He's asked you to play a game with them. You tell him no. He's trying to figure out. It's a billion games. Anybody can find some type of video game that interests something that they're interested in, but you just refuse to do anything like that type of stuff where you're not building a connection outside the bedroom or outside of romance is where a lot of people struggle, which is something that should have been figured out in the dating phase, but that's really where a lot of people fail as well. You know, they end up in relationships with people that they're not compatible with. They're attracted to them, they have fun, they have some things in common, but they're not compatible long term. And the longer you deal with somebody you're not really compatible with, the more hostile and toxic it's going to become.
Absolutely. It's like we're not looking for the important things because we're so driven by the happy hormones that they can last up to 2 years. So you gotta wait for 2 years to see. All right, now that the attraction is a little bit less here, is this a man or is this a woman? Is this a person that, you know, will show up for me even if they don't feel like it, you know? Once those hormones, those chemicals, they literally is what, you know, causes us to survive on a human biological level. Otherwise, we wouldn't even bond with someone if we didn't have those things there in our genes, in our makeup, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people, well, especially women, are so driven on trying to force the issue that they end up disrupting the whole process. And from a male perspective, that doesn't hurt him as much. Because most men are perfectly fine with casual relationships. They do get emotional connections with women that they sleeping with that they may not be in a relationship with. He may not be head and heels over heels in love with her. He may not want to be with her forever. But if she's sleeping with him on a regular basis, she's a part of his life. She knows if he gets in a car accident. She knows if he's about to go out of town. Like, she knows what kind of moves are taking place in his life. And so those are the type of things that people should be judging. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're an ambitious person, you should be looking at somebody that's constantly thinking about how can they progress, how can they move forward, what are they doing different this month that from last month that moved them a step further in life. Are they in school?
That's the status piece. That's the status.
Yeah. That's from a male perspective, or at least for a dating strategy standpoint, that's the most important thing for men. The sooner you can establish to women that you about something, the easier it is to get in their panties. You know what I mean? So that's from the basic perspective. You get some money, and now you can buy a fly car. It ain't got to be a Ferrari, but it could be something nicer than average, and you can finesse that into making yourself appear to be more than you actually are. But it's different when you're able to impress women with your character. Where that one phone conversation where you went from just some dude she met at the skating rink to she know everything about you and where you from and what you do for a living. So now you're on her brain regularly. You're the person that she's thinking about when she's listening to R&B in a car and all this type of stuff. Like, smart men play in those areas where you get to reap the benefits. And, you know.
So almost what I'm hearing from you is that piece about, does the woman show interest, and does she engage him and is curious about his life? Even I'm hearing
a lot of women are not.
Outside of the sexual relationship, too.
Yes.
You know?
Well, see, from the male perspective, you're in control. You control the conversation. The only thing the woman really controls is if or when y'all have sex. But as far as what we talk about and what comes up, most men, at least the ones that are successful with women, that's where you take control in the conversation. You don't have to control where y'all go or whatnot. You let the woman make decisions that you don't care about. But the things that you really want to talk about, that's how you control the conversation in the dialect. And that's where men have a bigger advantage than women, because they get to it's like they're the producer in the newsroom. They get to decide what stories we talk about. So you may write a story that's just as interesting, but we get to decide what we're gonna talk about today. And so it's that's where where I mentioned earlier the skill, the conversation skills, the how to relay questions to women, how to get them to open up to you. Things that, man, I'll be feeling so bad because I'm like, man, I got all these brilliant strategies, but I use them to get sex majority of the time. Like, I feel like that was kind of misguided youth, you know. So I wish I had applied that to my studies, but now it's rewarding because I'm in the position that I'm in and I have an audience. But that's the kind of stuff these conversations make me think about. But the male perspective and the competition that men have to deal with requires you to put yourself in. You got to use what your strengths to the max. You got to max out on your strengths, and you got to hide or make do with your weaknesses. And women don't really have to put that much skill into dating. They just sit back and shoot.
It's very different. I mean, what you're talking about really emphasizes the importance of a man feeling status in himself. Like, number one thing men need to feel is status, and that can be satisfied in it's very unique to each man. But he has to feel like, okay, I've reached a point where I feel like I've gotten to a point where I feel confident, I feel good, I have something really valuable and worthy to contribute here, and I feel good about that. And a woman, of course, is going to respond to that. But one of the things that's important to add is, you know, the woman chooses the man based on what that status is attached to. That's really important. As we're dating, we look at, okay, is this man pursuing something that makes me feel is aligned with my soul? Like, for example, you know, when I met my partner, the reason why I was so drawn to him is because he was very much a humanitarian, like very much contributed to people and wanted to help couples. And so it was almost like his mission was the same as mine, and what he created status in was what magnetizes us to someone. So as you know, whereas what you're talking about brings the type of woman that is drawn to your mission. So and you'd be surprised like how often this comes up in relationships. And when I work with couples, the woman has chosen the man because of that. And when a man doesn't really have clarity in this area, or he doesn't really take the time to develop that, he can feel really, really stuck and paralyzed. Does that make sense when I say that?
You mean like, well, it's hard for me to understand because I've never had that. I've always felt like I've outworked my peers and put myself to be in kind of the upper echelon of men. So I've never felt that. Like you said, I've always had that status symbol from high school on. Yeah, because I was providing for myself. So, and I'm not materialistic. You know what I mean? So I've always been able to afford what I like and wasn't really tripping off what I didn't have or what other people had. So that allowed me to be a lot happier and live a much more realistic lifestyle. So
You
I've
had
never
an
I've
advantage
never
over a lot of
struggled.
men. You
Huh?
know, you had a big advantage over a lot of men who often struggle with this.
Yeah, I'm realizing that now.
Yeah.
But growing up, I thought that the guys that weren't like that were the minority, and now I'm realizing kind of the opposite. Like, I don't know, never. I don't want to talk about steer the conversation too far left, but I just the type of lifestyle I live, like in college and in the military and stuff like that. It did kind of warp my perception of what reality is or was. And it's not until I started interacting on social media where I'm like, oh man, the dudes that live like this are kind of few and far between. There are a lot of dudes that don't even know how to go holler at chicks and don't even know how to juggle multiple bad chicks. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't have these kind of experiences. And it's cool because now that I'm married and I'm not actually utilizing these skills on the general public per se, it puts me in a space where I can be as authentic as I want to be without fear of getting screenshotted or exposed, or some chick I done slid in her DMs. Like, I don't have none of these type of fears, so I can talk as candidly as I want. And that just gives me more and more credibility with the fellas, which is really the only people that can really judge what I'm talking about anyway, since I'm only giving a male perspective. The women that disagree with it, okay, you can disagree with it or you can not listen to it or whatnot. But as long as men are like, yeah, that's what we experience or that's what we deal with, that's all that really matters from my perspective.
Yeah.
I just want women to be able to benefit from it.
To women and helping them, you know, interrupt those patterns and helping them see the male perspective is really important. And I think it's also equally important to just understand why women have so much of those triggers. And men can also really, you know, it takes a really courageous and powerful man to be able to stand in the middle of a woman releasing her triggers on him, to be able to stand in that and to be able to redirect her energy to actually understanding what's happening. You know, to be able to say like, wow, you had a really big reaction there. What's happening for you? How are you feeling right now? Are you okay? I mean, that's a level of loving care.
That seems so hard. That seems so unrealistic not unrealistic, but that's just not the typical reaction you're going to get from a guy.
It's not.
Because if a guy did that to another guy, he's instantly maybe not ostracized, but I have no interest in hanging out with him. So I'm not going to interact with him, and that's kind of what will happen with a woman that does that, unless, like you said, the guy loves her already. And that's why a lot of guys end up feeling played, because you played like you had sense the first 6 weeks, and then you came out with the crazy expectations or the crazy, you know, all the extra that pushes men away.
Totally. Like, unless they're already hooked in, then they're less likely to be able to want to deal with the intensity of what that brings, which I understand. I totally get that. And, you know, that's why it's like we always have to look at things in a very holistic way, both sides, you know. As the man, you know, if I want to be with a woman that's very emotional, and if I want to be with a woman that has that really powerful range and feeling range, which most men are attracted to that, but then they need their woman to express that range in a way that doesn't butcher them, in a way that doesn't cut them down. And so, you know, that piece about, for a woman, my biggest coaching is always, you know, when a woman makes an assumption about a man, when I make an assumption in my relationship, it's very disorienting for my partner. It's confusing, it's disorienting, because a lot of times it's not his truth. And so what I encourage, of course, both myself and my clients, is how can I share what's coming up for me in a way where I stay with my own feelings. I'm noticing I feel really uncomfortable when that happened. Can you just stay with me and be with me in my feelings right now? I don't really know what's coming up for me. The reason I'm saying this, Terry, is I'm trying to put language so if some people are watching so they know what to do when the next time it happens, because a lot of times we don't have language for this stuff and we get stuck. Okay, now that I know the problem, I know what I do. What do I do about it? You know what I mean? So just staying with the feeling of, I'm feeling really uncomfortable and I don't know why. And I want you to know that what you did really hurt my feelings, but you didn't do anything anything wrong. It's not your fault.
See, you just said something real critical. A lot of women feel like anytime a man does something that hurts their feelings, he's wrong for doing it.
Yes.
And it's like, whoa, women get their feelings hurt just off normal stuff, normal assumptions, misunderstandings. And until you have a conversation about it and figure out what you thought or what you got mad over, me let you know that wasn't nowhere on my brain and you shouldn't even have nothing to trip about. Like, you have to allow that communication to take place. And a lot of women don't. And
well, you can also set the boundary as a man, too. You could tell them, I know you're doing a lot of blaming right now. I know you're hurting. I know you're upset with me. That's okay. You're allowed to be upset with me. This is the key that I really want men to get to. They have to be able to give the woman permission to be upset. Because otherwise she's going to bottle it in, but he can guide her.
I've never heard that phrase before. Permission to be upset. Well, I guess I say that when I tell women on my page, you have the right to feel however you feel.
Absolutely, you're allowed to be upset with me. It's okay if you're upset with me, but what I need from you is to not make assumptions about what I'm going through and what I'm doing. If you can just stay with what you're feeling, it would really help make it easier for me to comfort you. It would help me because we all need boundaries. We need to kind of help each other so we don't just stay stuck there and then neither one of us gets anything out of that. We just kind of have fights and then we don't know how to actually make the repair. And I work with couples all the time and I tell them, look, you're going to fight, you're going to bump up against each other all the freaking time. It's part of being in a relationship. But how do you deal with it afterwards? How do you go back to your partner afterwards and tell them, I'm noticing you made a lot of assumptions. I'd love for you to stick, if you can just let me know what you're feeling, because I care about your feelings. I never want to hurt you.
See, most men are just they're not going to come say that. They're going to come clarify the facts. You accused me of doing this and you was wrong. You told me this and you turned out to be wrong. And your intuition said this and that was wrong too. And so it's like men feel like we're always having to defend against some FBI, some invisible cloud type agent, where it's like, if you don't have trust, if you feel that way, if you feel like everything that I'm doing is bad or against you, why are you here?
Yeah. Well, what happens is also, Terry, is that we get stuck in the logistics, What you're talking about makes perfect sense. Nobody wants to be attacked. Nobody wants to feel like they have to go comfort a bazooka that's about to go off. You know what I mean? But what we can do is kind of get underneath it. And what I'm sharing is not an overnight skill. This takes practice. But it's for people that really want to look at conflict as an opportunity to understand what's really there for each other and learn about what triggers us, So when a woman is hurting about something and she's never really had anyone be present for her, and you set a boundary and you tell her, look, I really need you to be mindful of how you say certain things, and if she's still not willing to listen or work with you or adjust, that's probably not going to ever work. But if you have a woman that hears you and is like, you know what, shit, I really get that the way I just spoke to you was not okay, and I'm sorry. Can you help me do this better? I really don't want to ever put you down, because I'm realizing that, you're also helping her be aware of something that she might not even know she's doing. And I'm not talking about abuse here.
Yeah, see, you just mentioned something that it's a skill that I have it's my communication background. A lot of times when I talk to women or I do discussions like this, a lot of women speak in a way where they make so many assumptions that they just treat it as if they pulling out a fact book or a statistic book. And you hate women, and they'll just talk in a way where it's like, all right, that's incorrect. And by the time the man gets to respond, he has 7 inaccurate accusations thrown at him already. And so one thing that I've found that has always helped me, I'm able to kind of reverse conversations. So I'm just sitting there mentally taking a note. All right, she tried to make this point. that don't make sense. I do it a lot on my page too. You know, like I'll read their comment and I'll be like, all right, she said that was false. She used that word inaccurately. She clearly don't know what this word means. Like, so that's all you really have to be able to do in order to refute the stuff, the filling arguments women come with. But a lot of guys don't have that skill. They don't have the ability to be getting cursed out and be taking notes mentally. And then once you shut up, go point one was inaccurate. You made an assumption. That's not fair. You're like, to be able to go back and then not only just remember what you were going to say, to be able to have articulate, well thought out, kind of irrefutable points to make. Most men don't have that level of communication. So that's why I get a lot of feedback from men where they're like, man, I screenshot your stuff and send it to my girl because you can explain it in a way that I couldn't. That's me utilizing my skill, which is communication. And so that's the part, like you're saying, all these things that are going on in the female brain are very difficult for the average man to even deal with over a long period of time. And that's why we see the rate in relationships that we see. Because it's not that hard for him to find another woman, and dealing with what you're talking about is a headache after a couple of months.
Well, you have to be getting enough from the relationship to want to be doing this work, you know? Because every relationship has work. If we're getting, you know, we're having deep connection and we're really into this person, and then we can feel their heart and they're kind and they're loving, and I can see this person being the mother of my children, whatever the case may be. If you have that, 80% of that, and then you have 20% of it is like their pain and their stuff coming up, you are more likely to be open to doing that. And you know, you'd be surprised, Terry, with how often I actually work with men that have trauma in their bodies, and how often the women is doing this work for them and having to set those boundaries, and how often that men can respond from their own trauma and their own triggers. And so it's definitely more common for it to be with women, but I've also seen it with men, and I've also seen it in my own relationships where everything we speak in a triggered state is not what it seems. There's always something deeper underneath there that's attached to, like you said, you know, whether it's a past relationship or a childhood or a culture.
But you have to accept it and own up to it.
Totally. But you're right. What I'm speaking is really challenging. Most people do not do this level of work. Most people will not do this level of work. And, you know, even being open to this conversation might be triggering for people, because they might think, well, I don't even have to want to do this work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, but those are the people that they have these relationship goal type fantasies, but they don't, their mentalities are not conducive to having that type of relationship. Like, they're not willing to give the benefit of the doubt. They're not willing to be criticized or have somebody tell them what they feel about what they did without taking offense to it, without having to get revenge, stuff like that, where it's like, well, you say you want to be with somebody 20 years, but every time I see you comment under a conflict, if you would have blocked them or you would have deleted them or boy bye, like all these type of cliches where that's really your mentality. Please, whatever. Like, none of them have the building, let's repair the relationship type of mentalities.
But that repair has to happen both sides, Terry. That's the thing that I'm trying to kind of bring home is absolutely the woman has to take responsibility for this crap. I mean, no way in hell can she just dump and expect her man to be there. But, you know, I take a lot of research from the Gottman Institute, and one of the things he says, he basically has worked with couples, he studied thousands of couples, he put them in apartments, he attached like all these things to their bodies to see their nervous system and how they react and respond to each other. And he found that the number one thing that really makes or breaks a relationship is how influenceable a man is by his woman. And most people don't realize how important that piece also is.
You mean like how willing he is to listen to her perspective or make decisions?
All of it. How willing he is to be influenced by her and to be able to, you know, it's not the easy route, you know. It's definitely takes a lot more groundedness and presence for a man to breathe through that. But he also he can do that with loving boundaries. feelings. You know what
Yeah, I
I
was
mean?
gonna say
It's very
the
important
part
to be influential.
that the I tell people my rookie year as a husband, the thing that the most important thing for a husband to learn is how to tell his wife no. You know what I mean? Like, deal with the attitude, deal with the anger or whatever, have the argument, but sometimes you just have to be able to say no and mean no.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
but and I'm glad that you're able to articulate it. Like, some things you have to allow and compromise on. Like, we talk about compromise all the time. The way that I always manage it was, my wife cares about a lot more stuff than I care about. So she'll come to me with questions about stuff that I don't have no, which curtains, which this, I want to do the bathroom. What you think? Should it be bamboo? I don't care. Like, toilet, tissue, sink. I don't really sanitize. I don't care what the decorations and tiles look like. So I allow her all these freedoms where she get to pick all this stuff and decorate it and do how she wants. I care about the major decisions. How much we spend on the new vehicle. How much we spend on this. What trip we take. I only, I look at it like men, well, it doesn't have to be that way. It's no specific way to have your relationship, but it works best for most men if you let her have the flexibility to talk you into, like you said.
Absolutely.
What was the word you used? Influence.
A man has to be influenceable by his wife, and that includes her emotional experience. And what I mean by that is, if she is saying something that she's pointing to something that's hurting her, if a man can't hear that, again, if he's being butchered, that's different. You know what I mean? But if she's just sharing, you know what? I noticed you like that post. You've been liking whatever the thing is. If she's expressing her pain, and a man doesn't allow himself to be present for that, to really hear and to get to the root of her pain with her.
So when a man instantly responds to that with, "Oh, you just insecure," or "Oh, you being childish," that's
not gonna work. Because you know what that ends up doing? And I work a lot with attachment style, so this is a different conversation. I won't go into that, but it ends up feeding the insecurity. A lot of times men can amplify the woman's insecurity. Instead of just...
I agree with that.
Referring it, they're just like, you know what, babe, I could understand that, that's not a big deal for me, because like, I'm just doing it casually, but I can understand why, that might make you insecure, because women are judged by their beauty just like men are judged by their status. So for women, it's a very different trigger. And if he can just reassure her in that moment, it's just like, you know what, honey, I get it. I totally get why, that bothered you. What do you need from me right now? Like, how can I make you really
but from a male perspective, a man choosing to be with you is a very big statement about how he feels towards you. You know what I mean? Like, so he feels like...
That's the thing, Terry. You're taking away a woman's emotional experience when you try to put... Women try to make men like women, and men try to make women like men. You know what I mean? And it doesn't work.
But I'm just saying, like, so from a male perspective, a man choosing, especially a man that can have multiple women, him choosing you and putting a ring on it or having kids with you or whatever he did that signifies that you are a major part of his life, he doesn't feel like he needs to keep reminding you of that. Like, that's one of the decisions that it should be very apparent. But I get it. Like that, but that's how men look at it. They look at it like, what are you talking about? You're the one I spend my money on. You're the one I take to Vegas. You're the one I bought this. You're the one I did this for. You're the one I sprained my ankle trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like, they look at all the things that they overlook and deal with in the name of love, and they like, why should I have to keep giving you announcements on how I feel about you when I'm obviously doing the things that demonstrate a man loves a woman?
I get it. I totally understand understand what you're saying. And, you know, from the masculine perspective, the masculine is always looking for equilibrium. They're always looking for the peace, to go into their nothing box. They don't want problems. They don't want to fight. They don't want any of that. That's when a masculine is in his peace mode. But for the feminine energy, she wants to feel everything and experience, and even the fights and all that. In some way, women, you know, they enjoy that expression in themselves. But how can we make space for both of these things to be true? You know what I mean? Instead of like one being right and the other one being wrong. The number one complaint from men based on research is there's too much fighting and there's not enough sex. That's for men. That's two top research. And the number one for women is there's not enough connection and there's not enough intimacy. And both of these values, as you can see, they're almost contradictive, you know, because it's like they both kind of exist on two different planes, but it's finding a way to merge into each other's worlds. Like if your woman can say, you know what, I'm not trying to fight with you, I'm not trying to, you know, make you feel like you did something bad or you didn't disappoint me, and then comfort him, but she needs to share that piece. And so it's like taking care of myself and my partner at the same time. It's like
okay, let me ask this. So from the female perspective,
yeah,
this feeling, this urge to express herself, why is it so difficult for a woman to just apply some context? She's wanting to express a certain thing, but she already knows the answer to the question she's about to make a big deal about. Why are you, you know, like, why are you going to work? Why are you leaving? Like, because I have to pay these bills. Like, why do women make such a big deal out of things that are common sense? Where it's like, what really is he supposed to say? You know good and well why you only get to go on dates every once a month, or why he didn't buy you a such and such purse. Why?
I feel like it's a way that women try to connect emotionally with their partners, and it's not like obviously the healthiest way to do it, but it's almost like we're always looking for ways to emotionally bond to our partner. And I've caught myself doing this in my own relationship. Sometimes I'll just look over at my partner and be like, we haven't fought in a long time, you know? I know I'm not going to poke you right now, but like I feel that urge, and I don't want to just make something up. I don't want to make something up. This is me being really authentic right now. You know? But I'm aware that I'm doing it. That's the important piece. Is like I know as a woman that I'm feeling a lot all day long, so much. And
man, I'm glad I'm not a woman.
That, what?
So I'm really glad I'm not a woman.
It's very challenging sometimes, Terry. And I think if men had even 10% awareness about what women feel on a daily basis, I think they would be a little bit more drawn to wanting to comfort them. Truly. Because, you know, one of the things my partner has told me is like, sometimes I feel like you carry the world on your shoulders with how much you feel. And it's true, you know, because I feel everyone and everything. And, you know, I one time told my boyfriend, he was upset with me, and I said, I care about your feelings to him. I care about your feelings. He's like,
it does not feel that, from a male perspective, it does not feel like women genuinely care about what men think or feel. And I think an overwhelming percentage of men would agree with that. It does not, just the way that they, you know, the responses on social media. Women are not concerned about men when they really the ones that are taking a loss, where their feelings are hurt, or they get embarrassed or humiliated. They applaud, like, you know, the post where the man's being done wrong. But those same women will come wanting a pity party when a woman. So it's like.
I can understand if you don't, as a man, feel cared for by your woman. I can understand why somebody would not be motivated to want to comfort them. Like, that makes a lot of sense. You know? So, I mean, it is. It's really, you know, both people being willing to care about each other. It's so, I mean, it's almost like, how can we even have a relationship without caring about each other? Like, really getting, you know, caring enough to get our pride, our ego out of the way. And, you know, our culture has become so guarded in loving, that we, you know, we put so many barriers that we stop ourselves from caring about. Even on the first few dates, it's like we make it so robotic, you know, like, well, is it going to pay for me, or is this going to happen? And then it's like, wait a minute, there's a human being in front of me. Like, let me care about that.
That's what you were thinking about on dates?
No, I mean, like, I remember feeling filled with so much anxiety, thinking, like, is this going to become something? Am I going to be, you know, treated in the right way? And I think women have different vulnerabilities than men do. You know, women are always, you know, can I trust this man? Can I feel safe here? But unfortunately, when we're in the first stage of dating, we can't get that from the man. Yes, he can make us feel safe to a certain point, but we also have to sit with our own feelings of being uncomfortable for a while to see if it turns into something. And that gap from the first date to it turning into a relationship is so uncomfortable for most women. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Cause it's just like I said, I don't get women that can explain the female perspective without getting off topic that often. So I'm expressing my feelings. It's funny to hear that because it doesn't make a lot of sense logically. Like, to go from date one instantly thinking about the moment it's going to become something, that's missing out on the whole dating phase. Like, that's why women don't enjoy dating. But looks like we're about to be up against the clock. So before we get out of here, I want you to remind the audience how they can find your content or how they can get with you before we get up out of here.
Sure. Well, you guys can follow me on my Instagram page. It's at Silvy Khoucasian. I think it should be connected to his top of the link. And I actually have a free webinar that's on my bio. You can sign up for that. I talk about how to frame your upsets to your partner and how to learn about some of the attachment styles, which is what I teach. The link is in my bio to get that free thing. Yay, Terry!
Well, I really appreciate the conversation, man. I've been reading some of the comments, so it looks like it was well received. Outside a couple technical issues, we worked through it. I appreciate you taking the time out, and hopefully, now I will go ahead and I'll only be able to show my end, but I'll put the video of this conversation up on my YouTube channel so people will always be able to access it. So again, I appreciate you taking the time out. Everybody that's tuned in or that's watching or going to watch the replay, appreciate the love and thank y'all for tuning in, man. Y'all, it's been a real insightful conversation. What's that word? Give me what's the word you said again? The man has to be influenceable. That's the word of the day. Influenceable. You know, I'm real big on my definitions and knowing what these words mean.
Be influenceable, you guys.
All right, everybody, man. Thanks for tuning in. Y'all have a good night.